The sound of a distant whistle echoes in the night. Rusty tracks gleam under the moonlight. Have you ever wondered where the trains that no one sees go? Welcome, intrepid explorers of the unknown, to the shadowy realm of midnight mysteries. I am Raven Shadowmere, your guide on this journey through the darkest corridors of American history. Before we embark on this disturbing journey, remember, each like is a candle lit against the darkness, each subscription a pact with the unknown. Activate the notification bell, because in the world of mysteries, ignorance is not a blessing, it's a sentence. Today, we unearth a story that will make you rethink every train ride you've ever taken. Imagine, it's 1935. The Great Depression devours dreams and hope is scarce. In the shadows of Atlanta, a train departs for the unknown, carrying a cargo of condemned souls. But this is not just a simple transport of prisoners. It's the beginning of a nightmare that would last for decades. A nightmare of forbidden experiments, government corruption, and lost souls wandering eternally along Georgia's forgotten tracks. Our story begins with Rick Thomas, a private investigator who receives an anonymous tip about missing prisoners. Little did he know he was about to embark on the most dangerous investigation of his life, one that would lead him to confront not only the living, but also the dead. Prepare for a twist so shocking, it will make your bones tremble. This is not just a horror story, it's a warning, a reminder that some secrets are buried for a reason, and that sometimes the truth is scarier than any fiction. So, dear listeners, the question remains, do you have the courage to continue? To dive into the depths of this mystery, where the line between life and death becomes as thin as the smoke from a ghost train. Buckle up, our train is about to depart. And remember, on this journey, not all the passengers are, well, let's just say, conventional. The night was cold and damp when I received that mysterious call. A hoarse, trembling voice on the other end whispered, "Rick Thomas, I have information about the ghost train. My name is Rick, and I've been a private investigator for over 20 years. I thought I had seen it all in this profession, but I was about to discover just how wrong I was." The story began to unravel like a ball of rotten yarn. It was 1935, the height of the Great Depression. Prisons were overcrowded, and the penitentiary system was searching for desperate solutions to deal with the growing number of convicts. That was when the rumor emerged. A secret train transporting death row prisoners from Atlanta to an unknown penitentiary deep in the Georgia woods. As I delved deeper into my investigation, I discovered that it was not just a rumor. Dusty documents and forgotten archives revealed the existence of unrecorded transfers, prisoners who simply disappeared from the system. My search led me to a small town in rural Georgia, where the railroad tracks vanished into dense vegetation. The locals avoided discussing the subject, their eyes filling with fear at even the slightest hint of curiosity. But an elderly woman, Maria Lopez, decided to break the silence. "My grandfather was one of those prisoners," she told me, her voice trembling. "He was convicted of a crime he didn't commit. The night before his transfer, he sent me a letter. He said he was scared, that something wasn't right. That was the last we heard from him." Maria's words echoed in my mind as I followed the abandoned tracks deeper into the forest. The air grew heavier with each step, as if the very woods were trying to stop me from uncovering their secrets. After hours of walking, I reached a clearing. What I saw there froze me to the bone. Rows upon rows of makeshift crosses, some so old they were nearly swallowed by the underbrush, a clandestine graveyard hidden from the world for decades. As I examined the site, I heard a twig snap behind me. I turned quickly, my heart racing. An old man emerged from the shadows, his weathered face marked by time and remorse. "I knew someone would come one day," he said, his voice hoarse and weary. "My name is Samuel Griggs. I was a guard on that cursed train. Samuel told me a story of horror and corruption that went far beyond what I could have imagined. The train didn't take the prisoners to a new penitentiary. It was a facade for a terrible scheme orchestrated by powerful figures in the government and the crime underworld. They were used as guinea pigs, Samuel whispered, tears streaming down his wrinkled face. Illegal medical experiments, chemical weapons testing, all in the name of progress and national security. Those who survived, well, they ended up here. He pointed to the makeshift graveyard, his hand trembling. I couldn't bear it anymore. I tried to report it, but no one wanted to listen. So, I decided to stay and care for this place. It's the least I can do for these lost souls. As Samuel spoke, I noticed movement in the shadows of the forest. Figures that seemed to watch, draw closer, and then retreat. The old guard noticed my frightened gaze. You can see them too?" he asked with a sad smile. "They never leave us, the restless souls of the prisoners, condemned to wander these forgotten tracks forever." A chill ran down my spine. I wanted to believe they were just tricks of the light, figments of my tired mind. But something deep within me knew that there was more truth in Samuel's words than I wanted to admit. I spent the following days documenting everything I could. I photographed the graveyard, collected samples, recorded Samuel's testimony. But the more I discovered, the more dangerous my position became. I began receiving threatening calls. Dark cars followed me around town. I knew I had stirred up a hornet's nest, unearthed secrets that some would prefer to keep buried alongside those poor souls. One night, while working late in my office, I heard a strange noise coming from the street. As I approached the window, I saw something that made me question my own sanity. An old train, emitting a spectral light, glided silently down the street, with no tracks, no logic. I rubbed my eyes, certain it was a hallucination brought on by fatigue. But when I looked again, the train was still there, and in the cars, faces, dozens of pale, tormented faces staring at me, their mouths open in silent screams. At that moment, I understood that I had crossed a line. I was no longer just investigating a crime of the past. I had become entangled in something much larger, much darker than I could have ever imagined. In the days that followed, I plunged even deeper into the case. I uncovered connections to secret government experiments, obscure military contracts, and a web of corruption that extended to the highest echelons of power. But each discovery came at a price. The visions of the ghost train became more frequent. I saw it reflected in windows, heard its distant whistle on windless nights. The lost souls of those prisoners seemed to be calling out to me, pleading for justice. Maria Lopez, the granddaughter of the missing prisoner, became my ally in this quest for truth. Together, we sifted through files, interviewed former prison system employees, and followed leads that took us to increasingly dark places. My grandfather always said that the truth comes to light, no matter how long it takes, Maria said one night as we examined old documents. But what if the truth is so horrible that no one wants to hear it? Her words echoed in my mind as we drew closer to what seemed to be the center of this web of lies and horror. An abandoned complex, hidden deep in the forest, far beyond the clandestine cemetery. The place was a nightmare of concrete and rusted steel. Abandoned laboratories still held sinister equipment, and half-burned documents spoke of test subjects and the limits of human endurance. Every corridor, every room told a story of suffering and despair. It was there that we found the final proof, the link that connected the ghost train to the government experiments. A secret file, hidden behind a false wall, detailed the entire operation. Names, dates, results of experiments. It was all there, but our discovery did not go unnoticed. As we left the complex, car headlights cut through the darkness of the forest. Authoritative voices shouted orders for surrender. We had been discovered. In a moment of desperation, I handed the evidence to Maria. "Run!" I shouted. "Take this to the press, to the FBI, to anyone who can deliver justice." As Maria disappeared into the darkness of the forest, I turned to face our pursuers. I knew my journey could end there, but I also knew that the truth would finally come to light. I was captured, of course. I spent days in interrogations, veiled threats and promises of freedom in exchange for my silence. But I held firm, confident that Maria would expose the truth. And then, when everything seemed lost, something extraordinary happened. The distant sound of a train whistle echoed through the corridors of the facility where I was being held. At first, I thought it was just another hallucination, another trick of my exhausted mind. But the sound grew louder, the lights began to flicker, and a cold wind swept through the building. My captors, tough men who seemed to fear nothing, suddenly turned pale with fear. Before our incredulous eyes, the corridor filled with a spectral mist, and through it, the train emerged. The same train I had seen in my visions, now more real and terrifying than ever. The doors of the cars creaked open. Ethereal figures emerged from within. Spirits of the long-forgotten prisoners. Their eyes shone with a mix of pain and determination. My captors screamed and tried to flee, but it was too late. The spirits surrounded them, not with violence, but with the relentless force of truth, long suppressed. Amidst the supernatural chaos, I found my chance to escape. I ran through the corridors, guided by a force I couldn't understand. When I finally reached the outside air, I saw that the entire complex was shrouded in spectral mist, exhausted and dazed. I stumbled toward the nearest road. It was there that Maria found me, her eyes shining with relief and excitement. "We did it, Rick," she said, breathless. "The evidence is with the authorities. The story is in all the newspapers. The whole world knows now." As we moved away from that cursed place, I glanced back one last time. The ghost train was still there, glowing against the night sky. But now, it was slowly beginning to fade away. It dawned on me that our search for the truth had not merely been about exposing a crime from the past. It was about giving peace to those tormented souls, about finally allowing them to continue their journey to their final destination. In the months that followed, the ghost train case became a national scandal. High-ranking officials were arrested, secret documents came to light, and a dark part of American history was finally exposed to the light. As for me, I was never the same after that night. The visions of the train may have stopped, it's true, but sometimes, on the quietest nights, I can still hear a distant whistle, a ghostly reminder that there are truths that cannot be buried forever. And you, dear listeners, the next time you pass an abandoned train station or hear the whistle of a train in the stillness of the night, remember, sometimes the ghosts of the past have stories that need to be told. And some journeys, well, some journeys never really end. And so, my dear viewers, ends the story of the Ghost Train of Georgia, a tale of corruption, illegal experimentation, and lost souls. But it is also a story of perseverance, of the search for truth, and ultimately, of justice. Sometimes I wonder if I did the right thing by exposing all of this. If the personal cost was worth it. But then, I remember the faces of those prisoners, their souls finally at peace, and I know that I could not have acted differently. This investigation changed my life forever. It changed my view of the world, of what is possible and impossible, and I hope that, in some way, it has also changed yours. Dear viewers of Midnight Mysteries, the story I just shared with you is not merely a tale of horror for dark nights. It is a somber reminder of the secrets that our society sometimes hides, of the injustices that can be perpetrated in the name of progress or national security. Rick Thomas, our brave investigator, paid a high price for his quest for truth. His life was never the same after the events in the Georgia forest. The visions of the ghost train may have ceased, but the memories and the weight of the knowledge he acquired remained with him. The ghost train case resulted in significant changes. Investigations were launched, Corrupt politicians and officials were brought to justice. The prison system underwent a profound reform, with greater transparency and oversight. The families of the missing prisoners finally received answers and, in many cases, compensation. Maria Lopez, the granddaughter of the missing prisoner, became an activist for prisoners' rights, ensuring that stories like her grandfather's would never be repeated. The site of the old clandestine cemetery has been transformed into a memorial, a place of reflection and remembrance. But perhaps the most important lesson we can take from this story is about the power of truth. No matter how much we try to bury it, or how powerful forces attempt to suppress it, truth has a way of surfacing. Like the restless spirits of that train, it finds a way to manifest, to be heard, and we, as a society, have the responsibility to listen to these truths, no matter how uncomfortable they may be. We must confront the mistakes of our past to build a better future. Dear viewers, Raven Shadowmere speaking now. The story of the ghost train of Georgia leaves us with many unsettling questions. How many other dark secrets are still hidden in the shadows of our history? How many other lost souls are still crying out for justice? It's easy to dismiss such stories as mere urban legends or horror tales. But what if, just what if, there is a grain of truth in them? What if, behind the distant whistles we hear at night, there really are souls seeking redemption? Remember, dear viewer, the line between the world of the living and the dead may be thinner than we imagine. And sometimes, the scariest stories carry the most important truths. Before we say goodbye, I'd like to make a special request. If this story touched you in any way, if it made you question, reflect, or simply gave you chills, please leave a comment below. Share your own experiences with the inexplicable, your theories about the ghost train. Who knows, perhaps your words will be the key to unraveling another hidden mystery. Remember, not all trains lead to known destinations. Some may take us to places that challenge reality itself. Until the next mystery, dear viewers, and beware of the whistles in the night. Well, my dear investigators of the supernatural, we've reached the end of another chilling episode of Midnight Mysteries. But before we part ways, I have a few special requests for you. First, if you survived this journey on the ghost train without jumping out of your seat, why not show your courage by giving this video a like? Every like is like a beacon in the darkness, guiding more brave souls to our macabre stories. Speaking of brave souls, how about officially joining our community of mystery hunters? Just click that subscribe button and activate the notification bell. That way, you'll be the first to know when a new dark enigma arises on our channel. After all, in the world of mysteries, being the last to know can be, well, fatal too late. Oh, and don't forget, sharing is caring, or in this case, spooking. So, why not spread a little shiver by sending this video to that friend who swears up and down they're not afraid of anything? Who knows? Maybe you'll convince them to join us on our journey into the unknown. Now, a special thank you to you, my loyal companions in the shadows. Your dedication to unraveling these mysteries with us is what keeps the gears of this ghostly train moving. You are the true heroes of this story, facing the unknown with nothing but courage and curiosity. And before we go, I leave you with one last intriguing thought. They say our next episode will explore the depths of a place many consider sacred, but that hides secrets as dark as the oldest catacombs. Will you have the courage to join us on this journey to the heart of the unknown? Remember, not all mysteries should be solved, but all deserve exploration. Until next time, my brave shadow hunters, and don't forget to check under your bed before you sleep. You never know what might be lurking in the shadows. This has been another episode of Midnight Mysteries. I'm Raven Shadowmere, wishing you all a good night. If you can sleep after this story.